In this video, I want to make the most powerful homemade zinc-based hybrid battery in a size of a credit card. So like I said, I want to make some homemade zinc-based hybrid battery which will have high current output as possible in some short current test, which means that for this project I will not be focused into some energy density or cycle life of the device, because I will only be 100% focused into making a device which will produce high current as possible, and the size of the active surface of the cell need to be in the region of the size of some credit card, which means that the dimensions will be 8.5 centimeters by 5.5 centimeters, and the thickness need to be less than 1 centimeter. And the chemistry which I will use for this project will be again some zinc-ion hybrid capacitor, or you can also call it some zinc-ion hybrid battery, because this device is some hybrid between the battery and the capacitor. So to make a device which will produce some really nice current, for this reason it's important that you will choose the right materials and also the right cell design. So for the material, it's important that you will use some material which will have some really nice conductivity and also some really high surface area. But this kind of materials can be harder to find or will be really expensive, and for this reason they are not suitable for some homemade projects. And instead of this, a material which will have some really high surface area will be of course some activated carbon powder or some activated carbon felt. So here I have some activated carbon felt, and here I have some example of the activated carbon powder. So this one, like you see over here, have really nice surface area, but this activated carbon powder is a little bit expensive. For this reason, you can buy some activated carbon powder which is made from coconuts from eBay. So there are a lot cheaper versions of activated carbon powders, and they will also do the job really nice. But the problems of the activated carbon felts or the activated carbon powders is that they are not so conductive. So they have really nice surface area, but the conductivity is not so good. So for this reason, it's important that you will combine the material which have some really nice surface area with a material which have really nice conductivity. And for this reason, the conductive material can be some graphite powder, or carbon black, or even you can also use some graphitic carbon felt. So the graphitic carbon felt is really similar to this activated carbon felt, but instead of having really high surface area, the graphitic carbon felt will have some really nice conductivity. So for this reason, it's ideal if you combine the active material with some conductive material in a ratio of 9:1 or 8:2, which means that you will add 8 grams of activated carbon powder and 2 grams of graphite. So the other option will be if you use some graphitic carbon felt, which is really conductive, and then you fill this graphitic carbon felt with some activated carbon powder. So actually you press some activated carbon powder into the structure of this graphitic carbon felt. Then in this case you will get a cathode which will have this graphitic carbon felt network which is filled with activated carbon powder. And the second thing, which is also really important of making some device which will produce really high current, is of course the cell design. So when I make some really basic cell, then of course I will use some negative electrode. This negative electrode I will cover with some separator. Then this separator I will wet with some electrolyte, and on the top of this separator I will put my active material, which is in my case this activated carbon felt, and on the top of this active material I will put my positive current collector, and actually this will be my basic cell. But when you make some cell, it's really important that the thickness of the active material is thin as possible, because thinner will be the thickness of the active material, better will be also the current output of your device. So for example, if you have too thick layer of the active material, then in this case the distance which the ions need to travel will be too big, and for this reason you will not get the current like you will be expecting. So thinner will be the layer of the active material, shorter will be the distance that the ions need to travel, better will be also the current output of your device. And over here I have 3 cathode designs which I will also test to show you what will be the difference of each design. And to explain what you can see over here is, of course, this one is the current collector, this is the activated carbon felt, and here is the separator. So the first one, the first cathode, have one current collector and also one activated carbon felt. Then the second one have one current collector and 2 carbon felts, but each of these 2 carbon felts are placed on the same side. So one carbon felt is put on the another carbon felt. And the third cathode design have this current collector, which is here in the middle, and on each side I put some activated carbon felt. So in this case I will also need 2 separators and also 2 zinc electrodes. And now let's go to the testing. So first I will test the cell which will have the cathode number 1, which means that the cathode, the active material, will be only made from one piece of this activated carbon felt. And now the cell I will charge with a voltage of 2.1 volt and with the maximum current of 500 milliamps. Okay, this will be enough of charging because each cell I will charge to 200 milliamps. And now let's check the current. 3 amps. I think that it starts with 3 amps. For the second test I will make a cell which will use the cathode number 2, which means that in this case instead of using one activated carbon felt I will use 2. So in this case I will double the surface area of this device. But because of this I will also double the thickness of the active material. Okay, the current went down to 200 milliamps. Now I will disconnect the cell and now I will measure the current. .9 amps was the maximum current of the device which uses the cathode number 2. And now for the last I will make the last test cell which uses the cathode number 3, which means that I will use 2 activated carbon felts But these two activated carbon felts I will put on each side of the graphite. So the graphite is the current collector, and these two activated carbon felts I will put on each side. But in this case I will also need two separators, like so, and also two of zinc. So on each side I will add some zinc. So in this case I will also increase the surface area of the zinc. Okay, this will be enough of charging. And let's check what will be the current output of the last test cell. 7.3 amps. So in this test, the cell number 1, which uses only one activated carbon fet, produces the current output of 3 amps in this short current test. Then the cell number 2 produces the current output of 3.9 amps, but here in this cell I double the surface area of this test cell by adding some extra layer of activated carbon fet. The test cell number 3 uses two activated carbon felts, but these two activated carbon felts are put on each side of the current collector. But in this case I also use double surface area of the zinc also. And in this case the cell produces the current output of 7.3 amps. For this reason the credit size hybrid battery which I will make will have this kind of design. And finally is the time for making this credit size hybrid battery. So here I have everything what I need to make this one. So two pieces of positive current collectors which are made from graphite, activated carbon felts, separators, two pieces of zinc foil, 3D printed housing which will hold everything in place, 2 mole of zinc sulfide, and for the last, here I also have some dendrite blocker. So this dendrite blocker is actually my development, and this dendrite blocker is, how to say, trusted from the start. So I developed this one in year 2015, and every time when I use this dendrite blocker I don't get any problems with dendrites. And actually why I will use the dendrite blocker is because this Regal power supply have the maximum current output of 3 amps, and because this cell I will charge with the maximum current which I will be able to get out from this Regal power supply. And because the charging current is really high, for this reason I need to use some sort of dendrite blocker. And here is also my card, which is in the size of the credit card. So it's really important that the entire cell will have the size of the credit card. Not the thickness, but the size. So you can see over here 8.5 centimeters by 5.5 centimeters, and the thickness of the entire cell need to be less than 1 centimeter. So actually these activated current affairs are a little bit smaller than this card. Okay. And now I also want to know what will be the weight of these activated carbon files. And the weight is 1.72 grams. Very nice. And now I will put everything together. But before I will start with the charging, I will measure the current of the empty cell. So the empty cell right now have the current output of 5 amps. And now you can see that the cell is charging with 3 amps. So the reason that I charge the cell with this high current is because the cell will be charged this way more quicker. So if I don't use any dendrite blocker, then in this case I need to limit the charging current to maximum of 500 milliamps. And charging the cell with 500 milliamps will take a lot of time. So for this reason I use this dendrite blocker that I will be able to charge much more quicker. So guys, here is my homemade zinc-based hybrid battery, and actually now I will stop with the charging of the cell. Actually I still have around 300 milliamps, but anyway I will disconnect that cell from my power supply, and then I will measure what will be the peak current of this cell. But because the current of this cell was 5 amps before charging, for this reason I expect that the current of the charged cell will be around 20-25 amps. And for this reason I can no longer use this multimeter, which the highest current which I can measure with this multimeter is 10 amps. And for this reason I will need to use this meter. So this one can measure the current of 400 amps. Okay, so the meter is ready. Now I will disconnect. Ouch, 43 amps on this cell. So I get 43 amps on this cell with this short current test. So the credit size cell which produce 43 amps in short current. And the weight of dry active materials is only 1.7 grams. So guys, that's it for now, and we see us in the next video. Bye.